Hello, welcome back. Oh, look who's here, Tim Montgomerie.
I'll be nice to you after that.
I was rather surprised. I just, it's my style. I know Chris hasn't been on my show before. My style is I'll sort of say what my gut feeling is about a story and then get someone on to who knows what they're talking about. And I was like, he wouldn't have spoken. I tell you, I'm not one of those Me Too movement people, far from it. But I just don't think in my bones he would have spoken to a male interviewer like that. I think he needs a long, hard look in the mirror.
I think we all get out of bed the wrong side sometimes, don't we? I think he got out of the bed very badly.
Yeah, I've never had that before. But then he ended well, talking about, you know, the problems going on when it comes to the trial of rape.
You know what I'd have loved you to have done, just at the end of it, is asked him what his favourite...
I know, he'd have loved that, wouldn't he? I could tell that man adores a bit of banality. A banality sandwich would be his favourite. Anyway, look, hard to segue from banality to serious matters. Yeah. So let's go via planning, because that's sort of a middle ground grey zone, isn't it, when it comes to what sort of,
I got into a bit of trouble on this subject today, because I started my day on the Jeremy Vine show, and so we were talking about planning and how many houses we need to build.
Who are you with today?
I was with Tessa Dunlop, the historian.
Oh, do you know?
Yeah. She's
right.
But she really had a go at me, because I said, well, look, before we mention this, I think maybe before we build in concrete over the whole of the southeast of England, we perhaps should control immigration.
I know. Don't blame the migrants.
That's what I do.
It's always scapegoating. No one's blaming the migrants. People are blaming the governments for letting them all in.
100%. And look, and I actually do think it's still because, family breakdown, we're living longer. We do probably need more houses. And I think people need... And a lot of the green belt isn't green.
Yeah.
It's grey. So I'm not against building more houses if we need them, but at least let's control population increase before we build too many houses.
You made a really good point there, and I hadn't really thought about it until you just said it then. Not so much family breakdown, but a lack of family construction as well.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people like me who are sort of living in a house by themselves rather than rattling around with, a man in tow in my... So much less cohabitation, and what's going on there? A whole load of things have contributed to this. But speaking to Bob Seeley, he and I agreed on something. Well, we agree on a lot, actually, because Bob's sensible, he's sound. But we were both talking about the fact that the idea that you need to get people into urban areas is important. That's where the jobs are. Constant sprawl outside of cities, tarmacking over our green and pleasant land doesn't actually help, because you don't have the infrastructure out there. And when you look at population density in some of our cities, we could go so much further when it comes to building beautiful, building bigger.
Building beautiful is really important, but I'm not sure I'm entirely with you on everyone living in urban areas, or that being the disproportionate focus of building, because a lot of the people who say that often have gardens themselves. They live in England's green and pleasant land, and they say, well, high-rise isn't too bad. Well, they're not exactly rushing into high-rise themselves. I think there is, it still is the English dream, isn't it, or the British dream. Apologies to any listeners from Wales and Scotland, but, that idea that we have our own garden, that we have our own little bit of green, I think that still matters to people.
I suppose, but we were talking about, say, Dubai, the UAE, where you've got these huge residential complexes of, very desirable apartments in city centres. A lot of people trying to get on the housing ladder, young people who probably want to live in a city. They're not like me, who sort of yearns for the day I can mow a lawn and have a cabbage patch, because I'm old now and that's what I want.
You're not old.
I'm getting there. It's my birthday on Boxing Day, and I'm deep into my 40s at this point, which is quite frightening. There you go, birthday card in the post, please. You've still got time. But we were talking about the fact that so many high streets now dominated by... How do all these Turkish barber shops get into these empty premises and vape shops?
Cash only.
Yeah, cash only, of course. Yeah. We need 19 of those in the middle of Wiltshire, don't we, in Devizes. Everyone's needing a haircut right now.
I'm not, for those who are watching, needing a haircut at the moment.
You keep yours very... Do you do it yourself?
I do actually do it myself.
Yeah,
does it work? I'm going to be as mean to you now as the last guest if you can.
As long as you don't use that sort of that Tom Daly ways where the advert sort of goes zzzt.
No.
None of that.
Don't go anywhere near those parts.
Right,
no. I'd do myself an injury.
How we got onto this, I have no idea.
Turkish barbers.
This is actually talking the proverbial B-locks, isn't it? Turkish barbers. But shouldn't we be redeveloping city centres? How all of these premises have got candy shops, souvenir shops, Turkish barbers, nail bars, and you just think that this could be...
These could be homes for people.
These could be homes,
we're struggling to fill the high street. We all know it's barbers, as you say, second-hand charity shops, coffee shops. No other real stores are coming into the high street, so we might as well turn them into homes for young couples, particularly, who need somewhere to live. But ultimately, I still think the aspiration is deep inside the British psyche to live with a garden of your own outside of the urban sprawl. So I'm not entirely ceding this point to you, Alex,
but
particularly after you've been rude about my hairdressing skills.
I think they're very good. But you know, it's interesting. One of my favourite songs is from Little Shop of Horrors, and it's Somewhere That's Green, when Audrey dreams about having a little matchbox house where Seymour can mow the lawn. So I'm with you. Like I said, I want my cabbage patch. Let's talk about the horrific failings surrounding poor little Sarah Sharif. I mean, there are questions that need to be answered, but how often do we find ourselves in this situation? I started off the show talking about this from a demography perspective, and a bit like the grooming gangs, whether there was a reticence to do anything about this because of the perpetrator. But then it's occurred to me, we were having these same sort of questions after Baby P, after I can't remember that other poor little chap in Wales, where social services just don't seem to be acting in time, and that's what they're there for.
Well, I remember there's a cartoon, I think it was in The Independent, a long time ago now, and there was exactly the same image of a mob chasing a social worker, and the caption underneath one was social worker who fails to intervene, and then the caption under the other one was social worker who breaks up a family. And the social working world isn't easy. They're criticised almost for whatever they do. They're taking a child away from a loving mother and father prematurely, or they're failing to do so. So it's not an easy job, an incredibly hard job. And you look at the burn-through rates of people go into this world, it's incredibly demanding. I don't know about you, Alex. I don't think I could do it.
It'd be tough.
Very tough. But at the same time, this particular instance was 15 warnings were flagged by teachers. I think the police were involved, neighbours were involved. This should have been spotted a long time ago. In fact, she was monitored before she was even born, because the family already were on the files of social services. So this was a death that really should have been avoided. And then on top of it, you have what you've just suggested, was there this extra hesitancy to actually intervene because of the colour of the father's skin? And I'm afraid I'm very suspicious about that. Yeah,
and I think we do need to have a conversation as well. Rather than social workers feeling squeamish about addressing those problems, perhaps they need to be educated rather than, have you got internalised prejudice, into saying, well, hold on, is there particular trends when it comes to certain patriarchal communities? Might we sort of think, this could be a red flag here? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, a child's safety is more important than political correctness.
100%.
OK, let's talk now about... This is an interesting one, Shamima Begum, because it's sort of a similar thing. Now, hear me out.
I don't think we're going to agree on this. No, but I'll be quiet. Interesting.
Maybe that means we will agree, because everyone thinks I've got one opinion. I've got the opinion that people don't expect me to have.
OK.
Ooh, let's see how this goes. I might lose some friends with this one. Shamima, I think she should come home. And I tell you...
We are agreed, yeah.
Right, interesting. I'll tell you for why, from my point of view. She's one of these people, she's now become a political football, and you can't say, oh, Shamima should come home without being, you're soft on terrorists, she's a monster, she's ISIS. It's just become the sort of like the ridiculous taboo subject. You've got to hate Shamima, and she's got to stay in that refugee camp. The problem I have logically in my own head when I try and come up with, you know, sort of answers and really analyse situations, I talk a lot about the brainwashing of kids with gender ideology. The fact that, you know, pre-teens are being encouraged to take puberty blockers and breast binders and all these adult things because they're seduced by, you know, lots of things they see online. My argument is, and I don't know what sort of a monster she was in Syria, none of us know, we weren't there, right? But when she left this country, she was a teenage girl, and she had clearly been groomed and brainwashed online, taken into the companionship of much older men, told she was going off to the land of milk and honey when it was a horrible war zone. As a 15-year-old girl, when you're living amongst male terrorists in patriarchal cultures, what are you going to do? Suddenly be able to stand up and go, no, I've made a mistake. You're done for. It's over. So I kind of think on that basis alone, if I'm going to say children of the age of 15 shouldn't be groomed and be able to have puberty blockers, this one was 15. Yeah. The problem I have, though, is whether this sets a legal precedent. If we say to Shamima, right, you've got to come home, she's going to be at huge risk We need round-the-clock monitoring. What sort of life is she going to have? It's too late for her to be drilled for any useful intelligence. And does this then mean that it sets a sort of case precedent that all these other oiks and ne'er-do-wells who we don't want in the country can say, but she came back?
Yeah.
OK, you go.
OK, well, I think I may be more controversial than you then, because I agree with everything you said, and I think, you know, a young person brainwashed, they're a different category from an adult who's misbehaved abroad, to say the least. But also, I sort of have this view that if we have foreign criminals here, we should be able to deport them.
Yeah.
You know, they're not our problem, in a sense. And I worry slightly that she's a stateless citizen now abroad, and actually she's being left as a burden on a much poorer society than our own. And actually, she's really our product. Yeah. We exported her to the rest of the world. And so I think just as we should be able to deport foreign criminals overseas, I don't think we should allow our problem citizens, if you like, to be imposed on other societies. And so I don't like the idea of stateless citizens. I think we have to own our mess, if you like. We own our problems. And unfortunately, she's our problem, in a sense.
And that is what logic is all about. And like I said, sometimes you've got to strip back the taboo, strip back the political footballism of it all, and just say, OK, let's think logically. If I've got this opinion in this domain, it's two-tier, basically, isn't it? If you go one rule for this person, but another rule for Shamima. It's been lovely having you here, Monty. I wish I could keep you all day.
Oh.
What's your favourite sandwich before you go?
I think it's chicken and stuffing. Am I allowed to mention where from?
Yeah, go on then.
Marks and Spencer's. They do amazing sandwiches. There are sandwiches and there are Marks and Spencer's.
That is very
sandwiches.
true. You are right.
And yours?
I make mayo and cress, but they vary a lot.
That's a bit dull.
I love eggs. Yeah. I really love eggs. And sometimes a prawn sandwich. Or, like I said earlier, if it's like I've got a hangover, one of those really big, juicy fry-up sandwiches, grease and yolk dripping off the chin.
Your control room are prawn fans as well.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Look at us lily-livered people. Right, I've been told we need to break.